So my feelings on the ego. The ego is really just trying to keep its job. But I'm starting to see that the ego is really a verb and not a noun. So, here we go, egoing again. Alan Watts said, the biggest ego trip is that we have an ego. And that one kind of stopped my brain for a minute when I first read it years ago. Let's hear it again. Because no, the biggest ego trip is that we have an ego. Like, what? So all these years later, my feeling is that it's because we treat this ego as if it's a noun, a thing, an entity, a being. When really it's more like a verb. So yes, egoing. My feelings on this rascal noun ego. The rascal noun ego is sort of like that way overly dramatic roommate in your mind who thinks that they are the main character in every story, even the ones they weren't invited to or written into. They're not even in the plot, but somehow they show up as the main character, and you're just an extra. Whoops. The ego as a noun is basically that friend who crashes the wedding and then says, "Oh, you're so welcome. Here I am. I came." But here's the possible plot twist. The ego isn't an actual thing. It's not even the dramatic friend or some crusty little yellow, mustard yellow goblin living in your psyche, chewing on your self-esteem and blowing smoke rings up your bum, your bunda, for doing stupid shit. Or even the goblin. What color would that be? The goblin with the gavel of punishment. Still mustard yellow. The ego I feel is more a verb, like run or overthink or destructive criticaling or screaming internally. The ego is something we do. We ego, we narrate, we perform, we protect, we project, we react. You ego when you say, "See, I'm grown. You put on your adult panties." Translation, validate my spiritual glow up, please. I've healed so much. I'm healed. Past tense. I don't even care anymore. Said while caring very much. I don't need anyone. Echoing loudly into the void, staring longingly at a phone. I'm not judging them. I just think they have a lot of unhealed stuff. Ego in a shitty therapist costume. Or, I'm over it, and then cue the 3-hour courtroom replay with a stenographer on hand. And then the I am nothing. I have dissolved into the self. And that's just another ego now wearing a monk's robe and holding a selfie stick while doing a TikTok live in the garb. Remember, noticing these things doesn't make you bad, okay? It's just, it makes you absolutely brilliant. Because your awareness is that first blink towards freedom. And this is where the Buddha comes in. Hey, Buddha. Where Buddhism strolls in quietly, calmly, like it knows something. Because the Buddha did. So, there's this elegant insight called anicca. Anicca. It's impermanence. Everything changes. The weather, or your weather, your mood, and the people that you thought were your forever people. Even all of the noises around the neighborhood, it's all impermanent. But even your sense of self is impermanent. If everything is changing, then the ego, that identity construction crew, that changes too. It's not fixed. It's not permanent. It's not forever. It's just you egoing in that moment. It's the show. It's not a fixed structure. It's more like a pop-up tent. You keep pitching up every morning and saying, "This is my home." And then Buddhism gently taps you on the shoulder and says, "Darling, you've been sleeping in a metaphor." There's also anatta, or no self. Not in the nihilistic, "oh, I'm just an empty, soulless beanbag," no, kind of way. It just means that there's no permanent separate self. Just a stream of sensations, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness doing a funky little group dance we call me. The verb, ego, the verb with a 401k. The ego just wants job security, so it keeps working. Even when you're meditating, for me especially when I'm meditating, and you sit in lotus position, and within seconds, am I doing this right? Is enlightenment anywhere near me? Am I spiritual enough? Did the Buddha get bored? The ego egos even about not egoing. So what do? We don't have to fire the ego. We just stop giving it the corner office with the perfect view. We say, "Thank you for your service. You're on call now, not in charge." We see the egoing without becoming it. That's the whole jam. Watch the reflex. Watch the reaction. Feel it rise and then feel it fall. It's like that wave in water. No judgment, just awareness of the impermanence of your human in this moment egoing. So let's get practical for a moment. I know, practical. Meh. Let's get practical. So, once you realize that the ego isn't necessarily a villain with a name, but more like a verb with a silly hat on it, you can just observe it happening. Just watch it, like bird watching. If the birds were to have neurotic thoughts, if the birds were to represent your neurotic thoughts in your heads with strong opinions about your inner teenager. So the next time you're spiraling out or spiraling in, you can peace pause and whisper and just go, I ego. I'm egoing at this moment. Yes, we ego. We ego when we grasp at praise like it's the last fucking cookie in the jar of your self-worth. We ego when we defend our position like it's some kind of throne built out of pure truth and aggressively arranged throw pillows. We ego when we compare ourselves with that one friend, that fucking one friend who she can thrive off of sunlight and trauma and somehow still write a novel before brunch even rolls around. We ego when we wrap our sense of self in a dramatic comforter of what happened, what didn't, and what should have. The shoulda, coulda, woulda, but-oughtas. And yes, you're sighing while you do it. So, the ego scab and the skin beneath it. The noun ego as a scab. Yeah, I know. It's not glamorous. It's kind of gross. But, okay. It formed when things hurt, or when somebody left, or shamed you, or forgot to say that one thing that your heart was quietly and desperately begging to hear. The ego scabbed over that raw place and it said, "Don't worry, I got this. I'll protect you forever," with sarcasm and maybe even a superiority complex, and you telling everybody that you're a genius. Sorry, Dad. And you let it, because it helped you for a while. It stopped the bleeding. But here's where I think people get it sort of mixed up. I did. Because the wound that's under that ego scab, fuck, it's already gone through the healing process. Underneath that crusty little ego flake is new skin. Pink and tender and actually kind of gorgeous. Maybe a little weird at first because you're not used to it, but it's real. But yeah, the ego clings. It says, what if we get hurt again? What if somebody pokes us right in that soft spot, that one soft spot I know about? What if tenderness isn't safe? What if we feel feelings? So it stays. Even when it's itchy, even when it's starting to flake in odd places, and makes you say fucking things like, I'm totally fine. I just haven't cried in 8 months because I am extremely evolved now. But here's the trick, the tricky trick. You don't need to rip it off. It's nature's band-aid for now. You just notice it. You soak it in attention, let your breath warm it, let laughter reach it, let sunlight, actual or metaphorical, touch it. And eventually it falls away. And not in some exorbitant spiritual purge. It's more like on a wacky Wednesday when you're washing dishes and you realize, oh fuck, I'm not performing anymore. Whew. It's just a relief that washes over you. I'm just here. I'm just this moment. And that skin, that beautiful pink skin underneath it, it may not be perfectly healed, but it's all yours. It's strong in a way the ego never could be. And it's no longer needing to be a shield. Noun's ego band-aid. So yeah, if you've got this far, because it's 15 minutes in, this is more like a podcast at this point. Wow, you are amazing. Thank you for listening to my feelings on ego. The ego isn't the enemy. It's not a demon or a disease. It's just an old learned strategy, a habit that once helped you feel safer in a world that didn't always feel safe. But it's not who you are. You're allowed to outgrow it. You are. Gently. Without shame loops. The goal isn't to have no ego at all. The goal is to stop confusing it for your identity. To notice when it's running the show and to say, hey, poof, I'm the observer over here. I notice that you're egoing, but I'm not going to respond in the way that I used to. I'm not going to give power to an entity that doesn't actually exist. I'm going to respond from something deeper now. Because you're not here to perform. You can if you want to, but you're here to live. And this is supposed to be fun too. Not perfectly, not with constant self-awareness or a perfectly aligned nervous system, just your honestly. So go. Be honest. And be honest to yourself. Go be you. Let the ego pipe up if it needs to be, but let your heart truth decide what happens next. No need to noun your ego. Let it verb through. We got this. Really, we got this. And remember, it's a practice, so don't be hard on yourself, okay? We can be egoing and still notice that there's an ego as a noun. What, like, I would love to hear your thoughts on what the ego is. But, yeah. Now that this is nearly so long. But thank you. I appreciate you if you took the time to listen in today. And with radical love from me, Jenny Lane.